Welcome back, everybody. We are on part 2 of the 2017 Smark Out Moment Awards, the Writing Awards umbrella category here. A couple of different categories or subcategories inside of those. Starting off with the best and the worst catchphrase or slogan of the year. Wide variety of options here. Some of them that actually were carryovers from last year and stopped this year. Like, we have not heard Have a Nice Day from Mick Foley for the rest of the year. And we probably are never going to hear the Neville level again, other than t-shirt sales and stuff. But I am going to go with my worst of the year being one of those that was a carryover that thankfully stopped, which is Come to Puerto Rico, the shining star of the Caribbean. That was terrible. Terrible. I don't think anybody ever legitimately liked that stuff. And it took them forever to stop doing it.
And I love that they kept doing it for so long because it was so bad.
It was just so awful. And they didn't stop it until after the Superstar shakeup where they moved over. And they still did it for like a week or two afterward. And then they were just kind of like, yeah, we're going to do the balloons. Now they do nothing.
Yeah, at least they were doing that.
I'd rather them do nothing. But on the best side of things, there's two, and I couldn't decide. Don't make me pick. One of them, I'm Not Finished With You from Braun Strowman. And Guilty Pleasure, my PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
If I do have to pick, I probably would lean towards that. Because, man, there has been so many times this year where that has gotten me to legit just like crack up. Like I remember Caroline's going through a bunch of school stuff. They're going through PowerPoint presentations and she's talking to me and she goes, man, I have to work on my PowerPoint presentation later. And I just start busting out laughing. And she's just like, huh? Like, did I see something funny? Did I pronounce it weird or something? And I'm like, no. You just gotta watch this guy. She's now gotten to a point where she doesn't watch 205 Live, but she's seen enough of Drew Gulak from me showing her that if she is in class and somebody starts doing a PowerPoint presentation, she has to hold her mouth from laughing. Mm-hmm. That dude sold that phrase, and he gets such a big amount of joy on his face when he's about to do it. And I don't know how many times this year they've done that where somebody's interrupted him before he's gotten to do the PowerPoint presentation, and he always flips out afterward. And it's almost like the crowd is almost just like, damn it, we didn't get to see it. Like, I fucking love that so much. And I did have a ton of fun with I'm Not Finished With You from Braun Strowman this year. That sold me on Braun Strowman being fun. So maybe I'd give the edge to the PowerPoint one.
I was thinking the PowerPoint one, but yeah, the one that got my best is I'm Not Finished With You, because it's, I don't know, I associate that with him now. And we've gotten so many jokes about it too. You know, it's something that you can kind of reference in a bunch of other situations and still get that smile on your face because you're going back and remembering. But
didn't we do a whole bunch of things earlier this year where it was like I'm not finished with Drew and like I'm not finished with like
I still love it's got lots of uses there. You can do lots of stuff with it.
I still laugh at the time when he tried to put it in the hashtag in the tweet and he actually spelled it I'm not fished with you.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you see the version that somebody did on YouTube where they tried to make his theme song with those lyrics? It's really awkward.
I did not.
But it's kind of funny because, you know, his theme song is like something you can't sing along to really because it's just like, and it's just like, I'm not finished with you. It's I definitely recommend people check that out. It's pretty funny. What else you got? What do you got for the worst?
For my worst, regularly mentioned slogan. Survivor Series is the one time a year that Raw and SmackDown go head to head in direct competition.
Oh, you took mine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what I had as mine too.
Oh,
how did I not think of that?
Sick of that. Oh, boy, did
I
they
thought that
hammer
would have been yours easy, Tony.
If I would have thought of it without a doubt, I mean, I'm going to have to change mine now. Like, you guys are going to see a different list on this, but Jesus Christ, I hated that.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. It's good.
Kudos to you two for thinking of that. That apparently went out of my brain enough because I just heard it so many times I wanted to bash my skull in. Thankfully, they, at least too, acknowledged that they were repeating it too fucking often. But man. God, I hated that. So that was your worst too, Paden?
Yes, it was.
I hate that so much.
You want me to just do best?
Yeah, go for it.
Well, my top best is in agreement with you guys. I'm not finished with you. The moment he said it, I think we all fell in love with it, and it was like 2 hours later. Like, all right, where's the t-shirts?
Yep.
Like, why are they not making t-shirts for this? And it made a star out of Braun in that moment. Not that everything else going on wasn't going to get him there anyway, but that's his Austin 316.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the roof is for Braun Strowman, but whatever the level he is, when we're looking back retrospectively, that's the moment that kicked him into that next level.
Yep.
Some other catchphrases though that I really liked this year. Who wants to walk with Elias? Really get a big cheesy smile on my face every time he says it. And Tony, this is another one that I'm shocked is not on your list. The lovely Alicia Fox.
I thought about it. I really thought about it because, man, the way that he used to say that used to crack me up so much. Especially how, like, he started to realize that he did it after a while, so he would drag it out even worse. Just Alicia Fox. And then other people started doing their impressions of him doing it. I don't know if that started backstage with, like, you realize Noam Dar sounds like a fucking idiot when he says this, like, that kind of thing, or what, but it's like this year's, Roy kind of thing. Very good choice on that one, though. I like that a lot.
I'll give it to my worst. So my worst for the year is Sonya Deville's "Put your hair up and square up."
I don't mind that, actually.
She said that?
That's her catchphrase. She was saying
Yeah,
that in NXT
she
all the
said it
time.
a couple times.
That was the thing when she was doing like promos for NXT. That was how she signed off on them. I also gave an honorable mention to they were doing this weird thing with the Mickie James Alexa Bliss feud. They were trying to get the phrase "biscuit butt" over. So Mickie James kept calling Alexa Bliss "biscuit butt" during every single promo, and just nobody paid any attention to it at all.
To be honest, it kind of just made me hungry. For two things.
I heard on the one behind the scenes, whatever they called, the one special they did when they were in India. Was it India? Where did they go? But anyways, they were
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, Abu Dhabi. Yeah, and they were saying I guess the crowd was chanting "biscuit butt," and she got a kick out of that.
Which is hilarious because that's the country they went to where it was like this big historic thing where it's the first time women wrestled because they have to have their bodies fully covered and they made these custom suits for them to wrestle there. And it's like, oh, it's against their religion. The women can't go out there with these revealing clothes. And then the fucking men are out there chanting "biscuit butt."
Yeah, kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it?
Fuck that country.
In terms of best, I had so many listed down. Obviously, I'm Not Finished with You. Who Wants to Walk with Elias is fantastic. I like the Miz's "When my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut." It's always been one of my favourites of his.
Ooh, and the intro to Miz TV is a good one too.
How he like lets the crowd say it, but then he repeats it afterward just because it's like,
Yeah.
nah, you don't get to say it.
I also enjoyed "It's Not Paranoia, It's the Usos." I thought that was quite a good. It's grown on me as like an ending point for them. But my favourite has to be Rusev Day.
Oh, I forgot about Rusev Day. Yeah.
How do you forget about Rusev Day? It's today.
Spoiler: I have that as my best gimmick.
I actually I bought the T-shirt. I'm wearing it right now as well. So
I can't be too upset with that, especially if you got it on sale.
yeah, I did. Yeah, just before the Christmas stuff. So
That didn't sound convincing. You paid full price for it, didn't you?
you actually paid double for it as well. So that was.
I mean, there's some different ones throughout this year that I think that fly under the radar, but should be shit on or praised. Like, I really hate Straight Fire from Becky Lynch. I think that just comes off a little bit weird. And a lot of people love Glorious. That's another great one. I think we should give a little bit of credit to how fun it is to do a Sheamus impression of, "We don't set the bar, we are the bar," because that's kind of fun. Jericho killing it this year with like the list at the beginning of the year.
And it.
Enzo, I'm surprised didn't get anything, but that's because he's just annoying as hell when it comes to that kind of thing. Delete from Matt Hardy. Got a little bit of a carryover from his previous stuff. I really hate This Is My House fucking coming back. But there's one that I think that I get more pleasure out of than probably most people, which is when Luke Gallows gets really hyped up and goes, nerd!
That was on my worst of the year.
Really? I love that. His face gets, like, beet red. He just, like, I don't know. It's the total opposite of the ski stuff. Hate it. Yeah, so you were given one of the best being the not Paranoia, it's the Usos. That's actually one of my least favorites.
Oh.
Because I kind of don't get it.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the Uso Penitentiary line.
Yeah, I like that one a lot better. I actually like Day One-ish better.
Yeah, Day One-ish really caught on. I really hated it at first, and it's really grown on me. I think the theme helped a lot.
Day One is H.
Maybe their day was a little more H than ours.
We're going to pivot a little bit over here to the best and the worst gimmick. I kind of mentioned a little bit of this ahead of time because it kind of has a little bit of a spillover when it comes to certain things. I'll just spoil mine. Drew Gulak, my best gimmick. I loved the whole PowerPoint thing, and I did give a lot of credit to heel Enzo Amore and the Fashion Police. I think that they're very, very high up there, but Gulak, I said it before, like that dude, he turned himself around so much from last year. And he went from a guy that I was like, how would they have hired that guy from the Cruiserweight Classic to, I want this dude to just be like the dude on 205 Live. I love Drew Gulak at this point. Let's stay on best, and then we'll go back around to worst. What are some of the best ones you guys got? Paden, I think you had said your best gimmick already, right?
I did. I have to go with Rusev Day. I guess it is more of a catchphrase, but it's really worked into being his whole gimmick. I'm glad it's gotten Rusev something to do because that poor guy was floundering for a little bit there, and I've always been a huge fan of Rusev. So great, and you know what? It gave Aiden English something to do too, and he's kind of nameless. I feel like he's not a super special guy, but I do feel like he's the one who got fucked the most out of that whole Simon Gotch situation.
Yeah,
because Simon Gotch fucked it up for him.
Yeah, they couldn't really do anything with him after that because he was just one of the vaudevillains. Now what do? You know?
I think he'll find his spot, especially this is going to help him get him on his feet. Rusev, honestly, there was a point where I was kind of afraid he might get dropped at some point in the next year or two. But listen, you know, one thing we don't have to worry about is he will not get fired on Rusev Day, and Rusev Day is every day. So,
in terms of my best, Elias was very high up for me, just because it's very clear and defined what he does.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the biggest issues with these gimmicks is that a lot of people don't really have gimmicks. It feels like they just feel like ordinary people that are just either good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but, like what is Randy Orton's gimmick at this point? He's just an asshole that you're supposed to cheer.
The Viper. He hears voices.
Which is why I'll probably go with, in terms of my best, something that probably most people wouldn't think of, which is the Singh brothers. I think they're the best part of Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, right.
I do not see this pick at all coming.
They're the best part of Jinder Mahal's act.
Good news is we're not going to make fun of you saying Roman Reigns was the best in-ring performer this year anymore.
Or saying that you shit on The Miz. There you got another thing going.
I like being a little bit out there. Like, give you as much ammunition as possible.
You're more than a little bit out there with this one.
Do they show the same shows over there on your side of the pond, or do you see different shows?
I just like the fact that they're just like the manservants of Jinder Mahal, but the fact they're just such big hype men for him.
Modern day Virgils, if you will.
I think it works. I think it was the one thing that made his reign slightly tolerable to me.
Well, Calen, who you got for best gimmick?
Oh boy, you guys have mentioned a bunch of good ones. Let's come
Samir
up with.
Singh, right?
Apparently, I haven't.
Well, yeah, okay, maybe not Callum. I think Velveteen Dream gets a shout out.
Yeah,
I don't think he's my number one favorite, but man, that really works for him. I'm really glad he has something like that going for him now, and And hopefully that can make a transition to the main roster eventually, because I think it would be over. I'm going to go with Fashion Police because I love everything they do. I'm not sick of them yet. Every time they're on screen, doing their segments, I enjoy it. So I got to go with Fashion Police. I think they should keep it up and get even more attention in the ring. They should get more of a push. But I'm happy with just seeing their backstage stuff.
So on the worst side of gimmicks, though, I don't think many people are going to go with this, but to me, this is one of the biggest slaps in the face out of characters and just creative work in general and everything. The worst gimmick of the year, Emelina. We spent 17 weeks building up to Emma saying, nah, still going to be Emma.
Was that this year? It feels so long ago.
It started in October of 2016, and she did the whole switch over from Emelina back to Emma in, I think it was February or whatever it was. But yeah, it happened this year. And it's such a bad failure that it essentially cost her job. That's how bad it was.
In terms of my worst, Bray Wyatt has lost a lot of luster for me, but he's not going to be. He hasn't quite reached the point where I think his gimmick is unsalvageable. Worst has to be Dolph Ziggler. I've gotten so sick and tired of him bitching and moaning all the time. It doesn't get anywhere. He doesn't change at all. The only thing that he does change just makes him even more annoying to me. So, yeah, Dolph Ziggler's worst gimmick.
Same shit, week in, week out.
Speaking of
I didn't know it
gimmicks,
sounded like that, God.
Speaking of butt boys, I would say for my worst, it's something that we touched on earlier, and Callum sort of said his name in passing, but I would say the whole thing that they did for a couple weeks with Sister Abigail, Bray Wyatt, that whole thing. I'm glad it didn't play out in the ring because I'm sure it would be even worse than we all imagined. But just the fact, I'm guessing that was their plan. They're going to have him come out dressed in drag as Sister Abigail. Every time they would cut those promos and like his face would morph and he'd have the shawl over him, and it was so cringeworthy. It was, it's like, okay, sure, Bray Wyatt has done a lot of bad things in the past couple of years, and then they do this, and it's like, how much lower can we make him? So thankfully that they haven't really touched on that ever since it sort of puttered out. But I got to go with this whole Sister Abigail crap. That was terrible. And also the Finn Balor pumpkin face thing that they were going to do with it too.
Pumpkin face.
Whatever, yeah.
That's a good way to refer to it. I like that.
Yeah.
I thought I was actually kind of intrigued to see that because I like that he shakes up the paint here and there.
Oh yeah, I like that he does the different things, but it's like, oh, it's Halloween, so I'm going to be a jack-o'-lantern. I don't know. Cheesy.
Paden, who's your worst gimmick of the year?
I can never remember this guy's name. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if he's still employed anymore. I don't watch NXT on the week to week like I used to. But I'm pretty sure you'll know who I'm talking about, Tony. The guy who comes out and acts like he's stirring a cake or something.
That's Angelo Dawkins, but he actually is not doing that anymore.
Really?
Out,
No, he's doing that. He's still doing that as the Street Profits.
But he's not. That's not like his whole gimmick, though. He is part of the tag team called the Street Profits, and they are amazing.
Oh, I've heard of them. They're like the new Crime Time or whatever, right?
Yeah, they are so good. Like, you definitely got to check them out. But I know he might have still been doing it at the beginning of the year, where he would just be like, "I'm stirring the pot. I'm stirring the pot."
Okay, well, if that counts, then definitely go with that. Yeah.
Angelo Dawkins was, for like a good 2.5 or 3 years or whatever, he was on my list as like a top 3 future endeavors forecast. Because I was just like, how the fuck have you not released this dude? All he does is stir the pot. Now he's a part of the Street Profits, and I'm like, yo, stir that pot. Their theme song is one of like the top like 30 something songs of this year that I have been like addicted to. It's just like, I bring the swag like nobody can, like all this other kind of stuff. It's so good. They have a red Solo cup that's like their main gimmick kind of tool. They're amazing. I love them. At the beginning of the year, stirring the pot stuff was fucking terrible.
Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out for this new gimmick then. Like I said, I haven't watched that show week to week, and I don't think they've been on a pay-per-view yet, so I haven't caught them.
No, they've only actually made a couple of appearances here and there, and they haven't really, like, they're starting to kind of, like, pick up a little bit of steam right now.
Uh-huh.
I'm surprised none of us said Jason Jordan.
I don't think it's that bad, actually. I think that he gets a lot of true heat that people are masking as X-Pac heat. Like, his gimmick is supposed to be this, like, spoiled brat type of character, and it's like, it's working, you know?
Yeah, true.
Speaking of that, actually, as far as heel and face turns is our next category, so that kind of works. That's a pretty self-explanatory thing. You know, the best and the worst for this could be either case. You could have a best heel, a best babyface, a worst heel, worst babyface. It's not like best heel turn and worst heel turn, best face turn, you know, that kind of a thing. Just to make it easier. We have plenty of fucking awards, and I'm actually getting rid of some of them for next year. So less awards next year. Quicker show. But the best that I have listed down is as credit to a couple of different things here and there, and I'm sure that some of the ones that I almost picked are going to probably get picked by some other people, but I gotta go Enzo Amore's heel turn is the best turn for the year, because they took a dude who was actually pretty popular as somebody that could get cheered, and they turned him into the biggest scumbag villain that nobody can stand. They took real life things that caused people to hate him, and they told everybody about them, essentially.
Yeah.
And then
it was such perfect timing.
It really was. Mm-hmm. Like, if they wouldn't have done that, he would have been done.
Yeah.
And instead, he's doing such a good job as his part, and he gets under your skin, but he's supposed to, and it kind of bugs you that you know that it's him being himself.
Yep.
So it's like the type of people that are like, you know, I'm going to boo Roman Reigns because I don't like him. And it's like, well, you should like his character, but you're going to boo the performer. Well, Enzo Amore, if you boo the character and you boo the person, you're booing the same guy. So they win no matter what. The only thing that happens that goes contradictory is if you like that type of person, in which case everybody's just going to boo you. So
It's funny. I was going to make another comparison with Enzo and Roman, and it's that a lot of people like to compare Roman and The Rock for a lot of reasons, but it's that Roman they're trying to push as this baby face, and everybody's booing him, and it's like, oh, they should just turn him heel, and it'll match the way the crowd thinks of him. And they refuse to do that with Roman, but yet that's what they did so perfectly with Enzo, and it worked out so well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it did with The Rock, too.
Oh, my God. I just compared Enzo with The Rock. Oh, my God.
Former multi-time champion.
I thought they were kind of going that way with the Raw right after WrestleMania when Roman came out and he was booed for like 10 minutes straight. Mm-hmm. And he just said, this is my yard now. I thought that was the seeds of a heel turn for him, but they never really ran with it.
Yeah, it became, look at all the great heel heat he can get. Shame he's a babyface.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did that the one before too, when he did the whole "I'm not a bad guy,
right?
I'm not a good guy, I'm the guy,
the good guy." My worst is Dana Brooke for multiple turns, because does anybody remember her flip flopping and being anything? Exactly.
That happened to a lot of the women's wrestlers, because Mickie James like flip-flopped from babyface to heel without any real reason to change. Same with Alicia Fox as well.
Yeah, but Dana Brooke did it, I think, like 6 times this year.
It felt like it.
Like, she just kind of popped up and it was like, I guess you're a heel this week. And then it was like, I mean, she recently did it twice in the past 2 months, I think it was. Or even shorter than that. She essentially turned heel to fight Asuka, and then turned babyface right afterward to shack up with Titus Worldwide. It was just like, I don't think anybody cares at this point. Poor Dana. What are some other best and worst heel and face turns that you guys got?
I would say my best heel turn would be, although I don't like the way they did it, I think it was necessary, Big Cass turning heel on Enzo. Big Cass, it's really, I don't know, I think it's sad that he's gone, injury right now, but I think him splitting with Enzo was very important. I think as a main event or, upper mid-card heel, he works really, really well. So it was definitely necessary for his career at the time, I believe. I just don't like the way that they led up to it with the whole, oh, Enzo was attacked. And oh, now he was attacked. And was it the Big Show? I don't know. And I just don't like the way they did it, but I like that they did do it. That they were brave enough, I guess, to split up one of the most popular tag teams. And I think Cass at this point, had he not gotten injured, would be doing a damn good job. He'd be way up there. And it's sad that happened, but I got to go Big Cass heel turn. For my worst, I'm going to say Charlotte being a babyface. I do not like Charlotte as a babyface. She should always be a heel, in my opinion.
I think he kind of had to after Flair's whole hospital stint. People would feel bad to boo her, you know?
Yeah, after that point, I kind of felt more like natural. The babyface thing kind of worked at that point. Before that, I would have agreed, but after that point, I think it was fine.
But, opinions.
Hopefully they change it soon, yeah.
Paden, Calen? Or Callum? Calen just went?
In terms of the best, I toyed with the idea of going with Chris Jericho, but I kind of felt like he didn't really turn himself face. Kevin Owens just turned even more heel, essentially.
Yeah,
that was great, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great moment, but I just don't think he was the one that initiated it, which kind of detracted it for me. This one, the one that I chose, is slightly muted due to the fact that they never could capitalize on it due to his injury. But Tommaso Ciampa's heel turn on Johnny Gargano was the moment itself was the best heel turn, I think, of the entire year. Just the fact that there was so much empathy with the team. We thought after their loss that they were both going to come up to the main roster as a tag team. That it was their swan song in NXT, and then just turns on him right at the end, especially the point where they pay the little logo at the end of it as well to think the show's over, and then you just continue it. It was just so masterfully done. Worst, there was a lot of people that were just like flip-flopping between babyface and heel for no discernible reason. But the worst I had to go with is Goldust, because they just had him turn heel against R-Truth. They had some very interesting promos, but it just never led to anything because they had a couple of matches which nobody cared about, a couple of confrontations, and then he just ended up turning babyface again to fight Bray Wyatt. So
those promos were awesome.
Yeah.
I was so excited when they started doing those.
The director's chair ones where they kept going back and forth.
Yeah, they were really good. It's just the fact that they were just never capitalized on just leaves a bit of a sour taste.
And I remember he came out with the guy with the camera.
And also
that for like 1 week.
Yeah, there was also a point where around about SummerSlam he was saying that he was going to introduce his next big star.
Yeah, and that didn't turn out to be anything.
Yeah, because Goldust just did nothing this year.
He'll be popping up later on my list or something. Paden, what do you got for best and worst heel turn?
My best, I also went with Tommaso Ciampa, echoing a lot of the things that Callum just said. It was masterfully done. There's really nothing more you could put to it. I think it was the most impactful, and I actually think the fact that the injury happened adds a little bit more passion to it. And the time that we're spending waiting, it forced this slow burn to when we're actually going to get the payoff for this, and I think it's going to feel very gratifying when we do. I don't know if they're going to do it on NXT or if they're just going to bring those guys to the main roster to settle the differences. I think that's honestly something they could do if they really wanted to, like debut them both the same night and then have one of them attack the other on that night and just start it off really, really hot. And I think people would be on board right away. Worst, I'm going to go with the Ascension turning babyface. I think this is the bullet for them. They're a comedy act now, and once you go there, you're beyond repair. They were in a rough spot before, but they're going to get their small amount of time as a comedy act, and they'll be gone in the next year or two.
Did they get some pie though? It's probably more than they've got for the past couple of years. This is an award that I think I might not be carrying over next year because it's less and less impactful as time goes on, which is the Legend Comeback. They don't do as many of these as they used to. They used to have I remember a couple years ago we had 20 options, and now we had like 7. But it's essentially somebody that's no longer on the roster. They make a quick one-night comeback kind of thing, and, for better or worse. My best, I'm going to give it to Gilberg. I liked that he popped up.
I agree. That was the Festival of Friendship, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I like that too. Because he couldn't fight Goldberg, so he brought him out, and yeah, that was a great segment. That gets mine also.
What else you guys got for best?
My best was Ric Flair on SmackDown Live to celebrate Charlotte Flair's winning the championship.
That's a really good answer.
Yeah,
that was a great moment.
Yeah, just really feel good. Charlotte sold it very well, that she was surprised about it. Obviously, she would have known beforehand, but it felt like it was a real surprise. It was in Charlotte, North Carolina as well, so just everything came together really well for that.
You going with that one too, Paden?
No, I mean, I might change my answer to that, because honestly, I just picked mine as more of a joke, because I didn't really like any of the other ones.
Yeah, there weren't really too many great ones.
Mine is actually one you didn't list. My best legend comeback is Colin Delaney.
Oh, I actually forgot to add those two things to the category for this year for the layout on the website. But yeah, Colin Delaney's popped up twice now. Like, it's kind of crazy. Some other one that I think I would give a shout out to. I really liked Arn Anderson killing Tully the horse on SmackDown.
That was pretty good.
Oh yeah, that was clever.
Where he's just sort of like, it should have been named Arn. I like that. But man, my worst legend comeback. Every legend at Money in the Bank. They had Cowboy Bob Orton and all them, and they were just kind of ringside for no reason. Like, it was a weird distraction thing, but they didn't do a distraction, and they didn't get involved, but they were like supposed to. Like, it seemed like a bunch of delirious old men that didn't know that they were supposed to do something, and the Singh brothers and stuff were kind of like, "Hey, you're kind of supposed to do your part now." Like, I hated it. I thought it was so bad.
That was bad. For my worst, I'd have to say it was a guy who just came in at the end of an already terrible match. And that was the Great Khali at the Punjabi prison match.
That's mine as well.
I fucking groaned so loudly the neighbors could probably hear it. I was like, oh no, come on.
I thought he was going to stick around, and I immediately wrote him down as the worst superstar of the year and the worst in-ring skills and the worst mic skills.
Jesus Christ.
I immediately wrote him down for that, and then like a month later, I'm like, oh, I guess I kind of can't.
That was ridiculous. I was not happy to see him.
So we got one other person that picked Khali, right?
Yeah, I picked Khali as well. Just because it was a very poor match, and you thought it was going to end up eventually leading to a Randy Orton versus Great Khali match. The fact that they just had to end it that way, and I'm actually probably more disappointed with it than the fact that there wasn't anything followed up with it, because it was just some random thing to keep Jinder Mahal as champion. Just didn't enjoy it at all.
You got for worse, Paden?
Sorry, I thought before I said, yeah, I agree with you. The Money in the Bank. It was that out of the whole list that you have there is the one that I can't even remember a goddamn thing that happened.
Yeah, it was.
I don't particularly
really
remember Shawn Michaels. What did he do?
Oh, he was the Kentucky Fried Chicken guy.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't the one from the beginning of January one. I don't remember for sure what he did then, but I didn't have it listed down as one of the worst, so it must not have been like anything really. He probably came out and just was like, "Hey, I'm Shawn Michaels. Remember me?" Like, probably.
Was that when they were promoting a movie? He was like in a terrible.
Oh, he was in that Christian movie.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What was it, like the
Resurrection of Gavin Stone?
Yeah, it was like the Fabulous Life of whatever. Like, oh yeah, no. Yeah, so I don't know if we're going to do that category again in the future. I think it's going to depend on how many legends we get that come back this year. But I know one category that is not going to be returning in the future is improvement in a division. Because I had this years ago when we had just so many less divisions. At this point now, we've got the Legends, the main event of Raw, the main event of SmackDown, the main event of NXT, the same 3 for mid-card, the same 3 for tag team, the same 3 for women's, the Cruiserweight division, and the United Kingdom division. That's just way too much shit to keep track of. So last time around, you're going to see this improvement in a division award, and I really didn't put too much emphasis on this I have to admit. I think you kind of have to give a little bit of a shout out to the United Kingdom division because it didn't exist last year, so that's kind of a step up. But the downgrade, the Legends, I don't remember them doing all that much this year. This is kind of like
died.
That's the sad realization of the whole thing. Maybe you look at the people that are like the legends that are in the company right now, like Mark Henry doesn't do anything anymore. Big Show basically stopped hanging around. Undertaker retired. John Cena doesn't do much. Well, Jericho's not around.
You know what it is, man? They're in a youth movement like they were in the early 90s.
Yeah.
They're looking for as many young faces as they can. That's what they're on right now. So they don't want all these old fogies around. Their sagging skin.
Unless their name is Triple H, in which case just put him in the main event.
Well, yeah, no, you just put him in a freaking leather vest and he looks badass. It's good.
Yeah, Kurt Angle as part of the Legends thing, like that was a disappointment. So, yeah. Anybody want to toss out anything when it comes to this?
My biggest upgrade, I didn't know I was supposed to do a specific show. I just put tag division in general. We lost some teams like American Alpha, but I also think we saw some really great development for I was going to say American Alpha again. The Usos, I think, really improved a lot this year. We got Rusev and Aiden English coming together. That's really getting over. Shield came back together. The Bar was the most unexpected delight, I think, for anybody. The Hardy Boys returned. I think the tag division in general has just skyrocketed. Biggest downgrade. This one I had a little bit of a hard time with, but when I looked through your list, I put enhancement because you think about it, we don't have job guys really. Like there's some guys who lose often, but there's no jobbers. There's no Barry Horowitzes. Like even Heath Slater got to have a title run the last year. So that's what the division I went with.
In terms of upgrade for me, I went with essentially it feels like a bit of a cop out, but the entirety of like NXT's men's division. They seem like they recruited so many like big stars like Adam Cole, Roderick Strong getting involved now, and more like Cassius Ohno as well. I know he came back last year, but he just felt like he was getting back into the swing of things this year. You had people like the Velveteen Dream turn up, Aleister Black as well. Just really recruiting some really strong talent to essentially fill up the main event. And also like the improvement of Andrade Almas as well to an actual legitimate main event person in NXT. And Drew McIntyre as well, which just, there was a lot of really big talent getting involved. Downgrade, might catch a little bit of stick for this, is both the Raw and SmackDown's women's divisions. I've been so uninfused with their storylines the entirety of this year. I think the writing, the direction has been absolutely terrible. It's been capped off with this Women's Royal Rumble where they just completely forget that they're meant to be fighting and feuding with each other to just go, yay, we're women and we're getting matches that we didn't used to get. Yay. Just, it pisses me off so much. I haven't been this like uninterested in the women's division since about like the Divas era.
I don't hate that segment as much as most people, except they really killed it with Stephanie going, if there was any time that you should be cheering, it should be now. That was just like, that's grown.
I agree with Callum as far as the biggest downgrade. It's both women's divisions and not for the quality of the work that they're doing. But I think one thing that's doing them a disservice is the multiple title changes. I think that really hurts the division. Like we had mentioned before about Sasha always dropping the title, and I was just looking it up here real quick. I think we've had 5 or 6 title changes on each of the belts, on each of the divisions, which, you know, I guess in a year, but still it's like changing every other month, which seems too often to me. I think in order to build somebody as champion, they should have a little bit more of a run instead of just ping-ponging it back and forth like that. As far as the biggest upgrade, I'd say cruiserweight. I think I like what they've been doing with the cruiserweights.
Yeah, I mean, the Enzo stuff we were talking earlier, that he's really helped that show out a lot. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
This one, we actually don't have a best and the worst. It's just the most shocking moment of the year. Just flat out, what was the thing that surprised you the most? And I'd have to give it to AJ Styles winning the United States Championship at a live event. Because I did not fucking see that coming, that's for sure. It was just a random July 7th. It's just like, oh, hey, by the way, you got a new U.S. champ? Like, huh? What? I gotta fucking type this up? Like, no, this has got to be fake. And lo and behold, then they kind of fucked it up a little bit afterward with some different title changes and stuff. But that helped out the live event thing, I think, quite a bit. That and Starcade. But that was the most shocking to me. There's a couple other things here. I'm sure some other people mentioned some of them. So, what shocked you guys the most?
Go ahead.
Well, high on my list was Jinder Mahal wins the WWE Championship. But
Yep, I knew that would be somewhere on there.
But going into it, like I remember our predictions for it quite vividly. I was actually pretty certain in my mind that Jinder was going to win it. I don't know why, but like that reduced the shock a little bit. Like, oh, they're actually going to do this, aren't they? And then they ended up doing it. It was still shocking, but I felt like I'd prepared for it. But in terms of the most shocking moment, I think the Hardy Boys returning at WrestleMania. I thought it would happen eventually, but I didn't imagine it would happen so soon, especially considering the fact they'd wrestled for Ring of Honor the night before. And then you just turn up at WrestleMania and immediately win the tag team championships. That was like the biggest like adrenaline rush in terms of like just something I wasn't expecting at all.
And it was in a match that they had announced ahead of time. Wasn't like there's going to be a mystery partner or something. It was just like, no, that's a triple threat match. And then it became, by the way, it's Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I had for my most shocking moment. Also, Hardy's at WrestleMania.
What about you, Paden?
I was shocked when Braun Strowman was defeated by Brock Lesnar when challenging him for the WWE title. Or the Universal title, I guess it would be.
Really?
I thought Strowman was going to win that match. I was very convinced that he was being ascended that night. I feel like they knew there was a lot of money in him. That Strowman was going to be there all the time. It's the one guy who's really caught fire in a way that no one else has in years.
And then they didn't.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
Like, I think Lesnar's been fine as champion, but I think it would have been a very different year if we had Strowman as champion.
I think I would have been a little bit more excited about things. Because, I mean, I've been talking all year about how I don't give a shit about Brock and Reigns. It just keeps building towards it.
Dude, could you imagine if we would have gotten Braun versus Jinder as the champion versus champion? I actually would have liked Jinder better than AJ Styles in that match. Just to see Jinder get murdered by Braun Strowman.
That would have been kind of fun. Let's see. We have two more for the Writing Awards section. We have the Best and the Worst Smark Out Moment of the Year, which is essentially just the best and the worst moment of the year. The thing that you were the happiest about overall, maybe for personal reasons, or maybe you just thought it was like the best overall, like this makes me a good fan kind of a thing. When the worst being one of those things where you go, I don't think I could fucking watch wrestling anymore. And I would be surprised if nobody else has this, but my worst Smark Out Moment of the Year, Bailey, This Is Your Life.
Yep.
Yeah, that's on my list.
That was just next level bad. I give a little bit of a shout out to the Emelina thing, and I know that a lot of people didn't like the proposal, but man, Bailey, This Is Your Life was like somebody needed to be fired over that, essentially. What else you guys got for that?
Bailey, This Is Your Life is probably the top one for me. Just it was poorly directed. They've tried to rehash the same thing with The Rock and Mick Foley like many times, and it's never worked. And this was probably the worst example of it. But also high up there in terms of worst was the Ball family on Miz TV.
They'll be popping up later.
Oh God, I forgot about that. Yeah,
I love that. I don't know what. That can't be worst.
It was just it's so embarrassing to just watch these people who aren't wrestlers or anything like that just essentially shit all over the product, don't really seem to take any interest in it. They're just there to get themselves over and plug the fact that Lonzo's going to be in the NBA. Just didn't have any time for it.
Anybody else got anything else?
Emelina for the worst. That whole thing was just a fucking disaster. Yeah. For my best, I would say Braun Strowman and the whole attack on Roman Reigns and the ambulance and I'm not finished with you. That was great.
Paden, did you say your worst?
No, I didn't. The worst I put so this was a moment I got caught up in it when it happened, but the more time goes on, the more I'm very, very skeptical of it. And for my worst Smark Out Moment of the year, I am actually going to go with The Undertaker faking retirement.
Really? See, I have the retirement and the This Is My Yard Now promo as my best Smark Out Moment of the year.
I think Roman Reigns' capitalization of the moment, at least at first, was pretty good. I think long term it hasn't been too great, but the Undertaker's not done. I mean, they were very ambiguous about it from that the first night that it happened. It wasn't so much, but on the Raw afterward, they were very, very ambiguous about what his future was. And as time goes on, I'm convinced he's not done. He's going to be at that Raw in January, and
he's not finished with us.
Yeah, no, the Undertaker's not done.
So what do you have for the best?
For the best, while what followed it was not so good, the moment itself when he came back was just amazing, and that was the return of Kurt Angle.
So, Callum, what do you got for best?
Well, I've given honourable mention to Cesaro pops the beach ball at SummerSlam.
Yup, I've got that down as one of my potential best.
I fucking hate people bringing beach balls in, so the fact that he just ran out there and stomped it was amazing.
I absolutely loved that moment. I really came close to giving that the win on this one, because it was one of those things where I was just like, fuck yeah.
But the best thing, the thing that I thought was done the best this year in terms of just not so much like a moment itself, but just like a segment with many great moments in it, was the Festival of Friendship.
That was great.
Yeah, I just think every aspect of it, Jericho and Owens' work, especially if you had to go one specific moment, the moment that he pulls the list out and sees that his name's on it, that was just so brilliantly done.
A couple other ones that I had down as potentials for the best. Ty Dillinger's Royal Rumble entrance. Loved that. Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
It feels like a decade away, just considering where he is now.
And I really thought it was hilarious when they almost kissed between Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream. That moment was fucking hilarious. And the crowd's reaction to that was just like... It made me think of like that we're not in 2017 for a moment, because everybody went like, oh shit! And it was just this great like way to kick off that feud. I thought it was so good. But yeah, that Roman Reigns, This Is My Yard Now thing, that I had so little faith, because I thought at the beginning of the year, I was like, oh my god, they're going to do this fucking Brock and Reigns thing. For the whole year, I'm going to be hating it, and I have. But that moment made me go, well, wait a minute. And it gave me a little bit of hope, and then they shit all over it, like Paden had said. Like, what followed afterward, they didn't capitalize on it. And I'm really pissed about that. A little bit of carryover when it comes to this, but our final one for the writing awards is the best and the worst storyline, which is more, like, it doesn't have to be one specific moment. It could be, you know, something that carries over for months, let alone, like, weeks and stuff. And I think that we're probably going to agree with a lot of this kind of stuff, but I think, at least in my mind, the best storyline of the year was the split between Owens and Jericho.
Totally agree. Yeah, everything that they did with the whole, you know, I'd say when they were teamed up and then when Owens turned on him, I'd say all that together, to me, was the best storyline of the year.
My best storyline of the year actually comes from NXT, and it's Aleister Black versus the Velveteen Dream as an entire feud. Just the idea that Black is trying to, Velveteen Dream is trying to get recognition and trying to build a name for himself off Aleister Black. And Aleister Black refuses to say his name because he thinks he's a petulant child. And so Velveteen Dream starts going to more desperate, more like crooked and measures to try and get the recognition that he desperately craves. Then it all leads to a final match where Dream finally earns the respect of Black in terms of a hard-hitting, excellent match. Because that was the thing I think that Jericho and Owens was lacking, is the storyline was very good, but it was just lacking that standout match between the two of them to cap it all off. And the moment that it ends with Aleister Black saying his name, I think just from start to finish, it was a brilliant story.
Very tight, compact story too. Didn't drag on too long.
Yeah, it played out exactly as it needed to.
At the beginning of the year, I had the Alicia Fox love story thing as a list option, but that just nosedived eventually. Paden, what you got for best storyline?
Well, I'm actually going to do both because they're kind of related. For best, I have the Orton and Wyatt family story, up to and including Orton turning on them. I thought that was all very well done. Orton, he's ranges. He can be very fun to watch and he can be very boring to watch, whether he's motivated or not. And during that first part of that, Orton was very motivated. He seemed like he was having a blast. The Wyatt family was all together, which of course is a better version of it, of Bray Wyatt, I should say, than on his own. So that was a fun story. My worst is actually going to be the second half of the Orton and Wyatt story, which is after the turn, because then it got really weird. It's actually kind of amazing how much that story changed from beginning to end.
I actually have that down as at the beginning of the year best story, and then I have it crossed off on there, and then a follow up under potential for the worst. It didn't get my worst, but I totally agree with you. That went from like I didn't like it at first, and then I liked it, and I kind of hated that I liked it. And then they proved that I shouldn't like it. Kind of one of those things.
It's such a roller coaster of emotions.
Yep. Yeah, like Royal Rumble time, I remember just being like, oh, god damn it. We're going to do fucking Randy Orton. You're going to give that title to Cena just to give it to Wyatt, just to give it to Orton. And then I was like, all right, I'm kind of into this. And then it became Worms and House of Horrors. And speaking of that, though, about the worst storyline of the year, I really wanted to give this to everything that Rusev did before Rusev Day, because that shit with Cena and Orton following the shakeup was just terrible. But I went with Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura. There was no storyline. He was just like, you look funny, and I'm going to be racist.
Yeah, those promos were pretty brutal.
It extends a little bit more for me, because my worst storyline in general is the rise of the modern day Maharaja as WWE champion. He didn't have a single what you'd consider great match until he lost the title to AJ Styles, and that was a lot due to the fact that AJ Styles is so good. His matches were terrible. The promos were ranged from average to horrible. The material he was given was terrible. Orton didn't look infused in the entire time that he was feuding with him. Nakamura was not the person that you'd expect him to be in those matches. So I think the entirety of Jinder Mahal's, was it 6 months as champion, was just a complete and abject failure.
God damn, 6 months?
Probably longer than that. Went from May to November, so yeah, 6 months.
Terrible. Wait, did everybody go? No, Calen, you didn't go, right?
I thought I did.
Did everybody pick their worst?
Oh, no, I didn't pick my worst. My worst, because I agreed with you for Jericho and Owens for best. For my worst, I would say the whole Miz and Maurice versus Cena and Nikki Bella. He's never going to marry you, and and leading up to the whole proposal at WrestleMania after the win, and we all knew where it was going, and it was just it made me want to freaking gag.
Wouldn't that have been great if it just didn't go that way? And it's like at the end of that, then he's just like, yeah, this is a lot of work. I'm going to break up. Oh, that would have been hilarious, especially if Nikki wouldn't have known, because they're trying to make it seem like she didn't know that she was going to get proposed to, and it's like, oh, give me a fucking break. Probably pick the ring out. Yeah, so that's everybody for storyline, right?
Yep.
Alrighty, everybody. So we are rolling along here. Part 2 is in the bag. Part 3 coming up next. Programming Awards. This one's going to be a quick one. Only a couple things to talk about there. Then we're going to steamroll past that, go to Part 4, Part 5, Part 6, and continue doing all that. So click on the Programming Awards. That is coming up next.